Black woman. Beautiful, powerful, resilient female of African descent with skin kissed by the sun. Conversation. A talk, especially an informal one between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. We love being Black women. Black women are ambitious. Black women are confident. Black women are diligent. We are tenacious. We walk out of our houses put together. We are many shades and personalities of fabulous. But we as Black women don't talk about our dilemmas, current events, and what's going on every day that affects us. So we created this podcast as a way to laugh together, cry together, and have an open conversation about life as Black women.
Oh, that's deep. Black Women Conversations.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Janine. How you been?
I've been good. This week has been interesting. Nothing really major happened. It just was kind of like the rest of 2020. It's kind of just blah. We could have done without it. It was kind of interesting because we had the pseudo debate / town hall. Why we even were considering having an in-person anything after the president was diagnosed with COVID is beyond me, but nonetheless, it happened. And the town halls were interesting, to say the least. But the one thing that I can say about the town hall is that former Vice President Joe Biden stayed after the town hall televised portion to continue to answer the questions of the people that were there live. So I commend him for that. But I can do without any more of these debates / town halls, I guess. I'm just kind of over it at this point. But on a more positive note, my friends Ronald and Mel were on a special 2-episode series of the Black Love documentary, special on COVID. So they have been thriving and overcoming during COVID. And it's actually really exciting to see them on OWN and live and in person and having them share their stories so that the world can see how awesome they are. So that's been how my week has been. What about yours?
That is awesome that your friends are on that show. Things can work out during COVID. You know, I found that either people are getting pregnant, which is keeping me in business during COVID, or they're getting married and trying to make sure people are socially distancing during their event, or they're getting divorced. One of the three life events.
We hope that people have more babies, though, so that it keeps you in business. I have seen quite a few divorces. And here's the thing. This time during COVID has given people a lot of clarity. And if clarity means that you don't need to be with your spouse, then, you know, maybe this is what you needed. And if clarity means that you've decided to expand your family, then by all means do it. The Bible says, be fruitful and multiply, okay? All of you all, please be fruitful and multiply for me.
But on another note, I did, because I was trying not to watch all the political debacle going on, I did find a new show on HBO. It's called Lovecraft Country, and it's based on a novel by Matt Ruff. Same title. It has Journey Smollett is in it. You know, the girl that played on Marriage Counselor. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
She stars in that. Yeah, so she's in this show.
You know that's Jussie Smollett's little sister.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But I know her from The Marriage Counselor.
As she probably would prefer to be known at this point.
She also played on a whole bunch of other stuff. She's been a star since she was like, ee-dee-dee-dee-dee.
I'm just glad that her brother's nonsense didn't hinder her career. You know what I mean?
That's because people don't really know that, like, talk about it. Now we putting the girl out on blast, like, oh, you know, that's Jussie Smollett's sister. Well, I didn't want to put it out there like that.
We sorry. You can't help who you're related to, though.
But either way, this show is phenomenal. I don't know if you've heard of it before, Janine, but I was taken aback because I thought it was going to be more historical than it really is. And I just saw some previews and I was like, oh, another good old historical Black We Shall Overcome series that's fictional, but sort of based on real events set in Jim Crow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wasn't that what you did? Have you seen the show?
I have attempted to watch it. Ken watches it all the time, but I just can't get into it.
Girl, I was sitting there watching it and I'm thinking, oh, this is we got some stars in here, the new guy, Jonathan Majors. I didn't know who he was, but I said, oh, he looks good. Let me watch this real quick. And then monsters started jumping out of the bushes. And I was like, oh, smack. where did they come from? Let me go back and read what this is about, because this is not what we had to overcome in Jim Crow. What is this?
I mean, I think that probably the people that lived through it might think that monsters probably really did jump out the bushes back then. But I mean, Jesus have mercy. That was what got me. Like, I couldn't get the quick flips that are in the show between semi-historical facts and the monsters jumping out of the bushes. I just couldn't get with it. I was like, oh my goodness, like monsters and scary part of history. No thanks. But people love it. I'm telling you, Ken watches it literally all the time.
Well, I'm going to binge watch it because the couple episodes that I've watched so far are really, really good. And I would not have selected that show choice had I read the description first. But now that I'm into it, hey, I'm hooked.
Well, I might have to give it a second chance. That's kind of what happened with Greenleaf. Remember, you were like, you just have to watch it, Janine. And I was like, this is too much like reality for me. And then I got sucked in. So I'll give it another chance and then report back to everyone how I fare with this new show.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Greenleaf is amazing. And you know, my husband's a minister. So I'm like, that's Pastor such and such. That's his daughter.
Don't say that, Nicole. You're going to get us in trouble.
I know, right? I know. It's scandalous. It's scandalous. We all need a good scandal every once in a while. My life doesn't have as much drama. So, you know, we all need a good, scandal every once in a while.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that my life doesn't really have that much drama, but, a good scandal is always fun. Just saying.
Right.
Okay, Nicole, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. So, listeners, we have an amazing guest today, Crystal Carson. Crystal is the Vice President of Communications, Culture, and Media Partnership at When We All Vote. Crystal brings years of passion and experience in communications, politics, and logistics. Most recently, working with clients including the Obama Foundation. Prior to this work, Crystal worked on rapid response for the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign and served as the Chief of Staff for the White House Communications Office. Crystal, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nicole. So glad to be here. And Janine, really excited for the conversation today.
So, Crystal, tell us a little bit about When We All Vote.
Yeah, so When We All Vote, we are a nonpartisan nonprofit launched by former First Lady Michelle Obama in 2018 with a mission to change the culture around voting and close the race and age gap. And people always ask us, what does it mean to change the culture around voting? What does it mean? It means that people are talking about, thinking about, and taking action around voting all year round. So what does that mean? It means that organizations are providing resources for their staff, giving them time off on election day to be able to vote. It means that people like you all are having conversations with your family and friends to ensure that they are registered and ready to go. It just means that we are all really paying attention to and are staying engaged in the voting process. It's not about who you're voting for. It's all about just making sure that you are taking that action and going out to vote. And so we as an organization are working really, really hard to make sure we can be a resources for all people to be able to make their voices heard in the election.
I think that that's super important because, as we know, especially for African Americans, the turnout was record low in the 2016 election. So, we had this huge turnout in the election cycle prior to that. So we kind of just rested on our laurels and didn't really think that we needed to reiterate the message of it's important to not only register to vote, but actually show up at the polls. And then 2016, we were faced with what we ended up with, right? So, speak to how important it is to not only register, but make sure that you're actually getting out and making sure that your community is actually able to either physically get to the polls, mail-in ballot, absentee ballot, however they choose to vote, but making sure that everyone speak to that for a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to your point, 100 million eligible voters in 2016 did not cast their ballot in the election. And there was a feeling or a sense that, my vote doesn't matter. Why do I vote? What differences, what changes will I see, or how does it impact my community? And I think, we've seen over the last few months that people are taking to the streets because they're frustrated by the situations in their communities. They're frustrated that brown and black people are getting murdered in the streets, and this is something that's been happening for years, but one positive thing is that we are also seeing that people are recognizing that, the people who are calling the shots when people are having to go to trials, or even when they are getting pursued or, are dealing with their local officials, those are folks that we vote in office. Those are folks we vote in office this year. Those are folks that we vote in office in midterm elections. So, we have about 30 million African Americans who are eligible to vote in 2020. Collectively, as a whole, just think about the difference that could make. That's at least 1/3 of those eligible voters that did not turn up in 2016. And we saw the largest turnout of young people in 2018, but still nearly 2/3 of those folks did not cast their ballot. And so, I think now more than ever, people are starting to realize that their sheriff, that some of their mayors are making decisions for their lives and their communities that have really dire consequences. So, we really are hoping that, once the people have taken the step to register, now we're taking one more step to get to the ballot, whether that's mailing in your ballot, dropping your ballot off at a safe drop box, or just headed to go in person safely, early voting, on November 3rd or before that, if you're eligible in your state.
Speak to the initiative that When We All Vote currently has for early voting.
Yeah, so we're really excited. We just launched a new partnership with LeBron James More Than a Vote and Radio One and a few other great partners to host early vote activations in cities across the country. So we are traveling to places like Atlanta and Charlotte and Detroit, Milwaukee, Orlando, Philly, and LA, and a number of other places. And we are hosting activations right nearby early vote locations. And we'll have food, we will have DJs, we'll have some celebrity appearances. We're really just planning to be resources for individuals who might be stuck in line, or maybe they just finished voting and they want to come over and just grab a bite to eat before they head back to work. Or maybe they have a question about, something that either is on their ballot, or maybe a question about what just happened while they, went in. Maybe it's something with their registration or some other issue that they may have run into. So we'll have the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights there at all of these locations to answer all of those questions. We'll have PPE, so that means we'll have masks, hand sanitizers, all that you will need to go in and cast your ballot. We'll have that. We'll be there with our friends More Than a Vote to do that. We're really, really just hoping that people, even if they are stuck to have a long line, that they stay in line, cast your ballot, make sure that your voice is heard. And again, if there are any questions that you might have, we'll be on deck to be able to help you with that. We're also giving out over $1 million in grants for local organizations to do that, to host their own activations in their community. So if you want to learn more, just head over to whenweallvote.org. And you can see exactly where we'll be. You can also apply for grants if you're interested in that. So come on over. We have all the information that you need. And if you're not able to come to an event, you can still come over to whenweallvote.org, and we'll have, and we can, show you what's on your ballot, answer any questions that you may have, even show you where you can find your local polling place.
Crystal, that's amazing. I love that, especially since I think that a lot of people are trying to use excuses during this pandemic to not vote, meaning like, I may get COVID if I vote. You're like, here's a mask and here's some hand sanitizer. Oh, well, I don't know where to vote. Like, here's all the polling places. I don't have, I don't know where to vote. Like, well, here's all the information. So I think that that's amazing that you guys are doing that. I think people are always going to have some pushback. So I think that initiatives like this is really, really important. Have you guys seen, I know you guys launched in 2018, have you seen an increase in the amount of people that you've gotten involved in light of the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. And around the time of the protest, like we're really kicking off, we saw a massive increase, especially from young people, which was really exciting for us. I will say, as a Black woman, we had, Black women always hold it down. Let's just say that. Like, they're always there. They're there when it comes to our volunteers. There are a large majority of Black women are the ones who are showing up to do, we hold these events, which we call couch parties. They're always showing out there, texting voters, making sure their families are showing up, sharing resources with them. So they held it down, but we saw an increase in that group joining us. We know people are really, really paying attention right now and are excited to get out the vote. We're just, again, hoping to be that resources to help them do that. But yeah, there's definitely been an increase in voter registration. There's been an increase in interest in volunteering, which we're really excited about. And, as we've kind of already talked about, we know that these conversations are happening online with the media, and hopefully they're happening in people's homes as well.
So on a side note, we have to get your personal perspective. We won't be partisan. What do you say to people that do have an excuse about not going to vote? So they're registered to vote, they just don't want to go vote. What would you tell them?
I think it's about breaking it down, about breaking down the issues and the ways that, voting can really impact your community. And it's not just about, we've already kind of talked about, how your mayor or a sheriff who you vote for could impact the criminal justice system. We've seen that. We've seen how cases have gone one way or another and the type of folks who are making those decisions. Those are the folks we vote in office. But if you're also thinking about, COVID and the way that has really impacted our everyday lives and who are making those decisions, of course, it's the people at the top, but it's also your governor. It's also the folks who are, mandating and making sure that people are wearing masks or not wearing masks. What businesses are open. Those decisions are made at a level at governor. Governors are making those decisions. The administrations are making those decisions. So if you agree one way or another with the way things have been handled and where we currently are with the response, those decisions are made from the people that we elect in office. So that's a really, really important, that's something to really pay attention to. We're in we're in a pandemic, so we are in a time of crisis. And people are looking for, to get help. And are they getting the help that they need? Are people struggling right now? We have to take a look around and see where are we as a country. And, we are right now at a crossroads to make a decision. Which way do we want to go? And, we leave it to folks to make that decision for themselves. But just know that these are the folks who are making the decisions every single day for our communities. And it's not just this, it's jobs, it's healthcare, all of these, it's education,
like zoning.
Our school system,
right.
It's zoning, it's housing. I'm currently looking for a house, and I'm realizing how much, the districts and the way that they're drawn and set are from the folks who are in office currently. So we feels really detached in a day to day, but these decisions are being made, and they're being made without our community's input if we decide that we don't want to vote.
I think that you've said it all. Like, I 100% agree with you. Like in where you and I are from or live, one side of the street could be 6 bedrooms, of $400,000. The other side of the street could be 3 bedrooms, $1.2 million. And it's literally walking distance from one another. Right. And Nicole and I talk about this all the time. Like, for what we pay for residents here, I could go to Texas and have a sprawling mansion. Right. So it's completely different. But those kinds of things are determined by our local officials. Super, super important to vote. Well, thank you, Crystal. We're super excited to have you. And thank you for taking time out of your super busy schedule. I would like you to speak to the fact that we are 2 weeks away from the election. 2 weeks away. What does everyone need to do between now and the election?
First, make sure that you are registered to vote. In some places like Charlotte, for example, Charlotte, North Carolina, you can register and vote on the same day. They have early voting. And then once you know that you're registered, you've checked, you're sure, just get your ballot in. And so if you're casting your ballot via mail, the mail-in ballot, you need to get that in today. if you haven't already requested your ballot, we recommend that you do that now, or, just go ahead and go in and early vote. A lot of states across the country are currently voting. Millions of people have already casted their ballot. We're really excited about that. If you're a young person listening, you can go ahead and be a poll worker and you can sign up on our website to do that. Or you can just go ahead on November 3rd and go and vote. Just make sure that you stay in line. Make sure that your voice is heard. Make sure that you get that ballot in. Now is the time. Like, Janine said, we have 2 weeks less than that to make sure that we are getting those ballots in. And, it's our time. Let's do this.
That's a great part. Let's just do this. Let's do it. Just get it done. It's super simple. We're not asking a lot of you. Let's just do it and get it done. And have your family and your friends and your community join you. This is the one time where everyone should participate in social distance fun. Go out. If you are going to go out to do anything else, go out and vote. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you
so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
So, Janine, what's on your timeline?
So voting and election is rightfully bombarding all of our timelines, I hope. And if it's not, then hopefully we're bombarding your ear holes, telling you that this election is super important. If you have not ever heard us say this before, even though I feel like we're a broken record, this election is extremely important, right? Make sure that you are registered to vote. In Maryland, the registration deadline has passed, but here's the thing. I told someone this the other day. If you did not make the registration deadline for this particular election, that does not mean you shouldn't register to vote. Still register to vote. There are local elections that are coming up, and there's another election in 4 years. So register to vote. With that being said, at this point, we're down to the wire, right? It's decision time. All of these political things are coming up on my timeline, and early voting has begun. So there are two things that I want to address. And the first thing that I want to address is something, I would say maybe a retraction of sorts from something that I said previously. As we know, Janine has written out for the governor of Maryland, Governor Larry Hogan. With that being said, I can no longer support Governor Larry Hogan. And here's why. And I kind of feel bad saying this because he has, handled this blue state, because Maryland is traditionally blue, very well. He handled the COVID crisis pretty well. He shut down our borders, and he worked with the neighboring states to make sure that his constituents weren't harming the constituents of those other states and vice versa. But with that being said, Governor Hogan, who has traditionally been critical of Donald Trump, the things that he's done, and most recently he's been quite critical with the way that he handled this COVID crisis. But this week, because he did not align or believe in Donald Trump, he did not vote for him. And you would say, well, that's good, Janine, right? Because, I've made it very clear that I do not agree with the views of Trump. However, he also did not vote for Biden. Instead, Governor Hogan wrote in a vote for the late President Ronald Reagan. I have a problem with that because we cannot stress the importance of voting and make silly decisions like that. You cannot tell people that their voice needs to be heard and then you throw away your vote, because guess what? The late President Ronald Reagan cannot be president. So essentially you just said, to hell with it. It's not important. I'm just going to throw my vote away. That's crazy to me. And as an elected official, I feel like he should be ashamed of himself. Make a decision. And if you cannot make a decision about who you are going to select to be in office, you really are undermining the basic principle of our democracy. I have a problem with that, so I can no longer support him. That wasn't the only thing. I just felt like I had to say that because I've been public about my support of Governor Hogan, and I can no longer do that. But again, we are no stranger to the politicians disappointing us. But on another note, something that's been on my timeline, which is a bit more disappointing because this is coming from someone who basically is a culture creator, as I would call him, a pop culture icon, a rapper, an actor. Ice Cube has disappointed us. Here's the thing. I can't even really explain it the way that I would like to explain it. So I'm going to let you listen to a couple of clips. This first clip is from 2018, and it's an interview that April Ryan, friend of the pod, She's a White House reporter. She did an interview with Ice Cube in 2018 when his album came out. I'm just going to let you listen to it.
I got Ice Cube with me. I'm here in New York. I can't believe it. And he's got a new album. What is the album and why is it related to the president?
The name of the album is Everything's Corrupt. We got a song on there called Arrest the President. We don't know if that's going to happen, but it should. It's enough evidence to, send this guy back to where he came from.
So when you rap, it's from the heart.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you feel in your heart that's coming out in this about the president? What do you feel about the president?
You can have a little more class on what he's doing. Everybody got their policies. Everybody got their, wacky ways they think things should go. But at the end of the day, have some class.
So what do you think of what he's doing with the black community? Do you think, and he thinks he's going to get 25% of the vote come 2020. What do you think?
I hope not. I hope, that we ain't drinking that Kool-Aid.
What do you want to see come 2020?
I just want to see somebody that, at least somebody with some class in there that can hopefully help bring the country together a little more. I know it's always going to be Democrats, Republicans, like Bloods and Crips, but for the most part, somebody who can, who says compromise is not a bad word.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, everybody stay in it. Stay involved. Stay attentive. Don't get worn down by the BS. You know what I mean? Just stay involved, stay attentive, and always know what's right and always do what's right.
And go vote.
Oh, hell yeah. Go vote, because you don't have no power if you don't do that. None.
I can't believe I'm standing here interviewing you about your new album with Lock the President Up.
Oh, Arrest the President.
Arrest the President. Well, arrest means lock her up.
Yeah, they were saying lock her up. They need to lock him up.
You think he should be impeached?
Well, I think we should see all the evidence. It seemed like his time running out any damn way. He just need to be not reelected.
And as a rapper, what do you think about Kanye supporting the president?
I don't like it. I think it's a misguided partnership. I don't want to see Kanye hanging out with the president.
So if the president brought you in to talk to him one day, what would you say to him?
I wouldn't go in and talk to him. I got nothing to say. I would go in there and ask for something for people that really need it, but I ain't got nothing to say.
Ice Cube, thank you.
Okay, so Nicole, that's the first clip. This clip is from an interview that Ice Cube did with Chris Cuomo just this week.
I came up with the contract with Black America, and I didn't run to go work with any campaign. Both campaigns contacted me. Both campaigns wanted to talk to me about the contract with Black America. One campaign said, we love what you have, but let's really dig into it after the election. And one campaign said, we love what you have. Do you mind talking to us about it? And that's what I did. So I didn't run to nobody. And so that was real misleading to me.
Well, I didn't say you ran to anybody. I said that you had taken a pivot.
Well, you said I ran over to the Trump team instead of the Biden team. That's just not true.
But you are working with the Trump team instead of the Biden team, and people are giving you heat for it. What do you say to them?
Well, I'm willing to work with both teams, but I'm just working with whoever is willing to work with me. So the Trump campaign came to me and asked me to explain to them some of the contract with Black America. That's what I did. I'm not playing no more of these games, these political games. We're not part of a team. We have very broad problems, especially the wealth gap in this country when it comes to Black Americans. So I'm going to whoever's in power, and I'm going to speak to them about our problems specifically. I'm not going there talking about minorities. I'm not going there talking about people of color or diversity or none of that stuff. I'm going there for Black Americans, the ones who are the descendants of slaves. And that's what I'm going to talk to anybody who's in power with that. So if anybody got a problem with that, it seems like a personal problem.
Well, here's the problem, and it is very personal, as you know, for a lot of people of color, because they'll say, well, why would you pick Trump when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I'm not picking nobody. He's the president.
But why do you think he'd want to do something for the community when he says there's no such thing as systemic inequality?
I don't know what he want to do. I just know what the man said. I know what he said to the country. I've never met Donald Trump. So I don't know what he's going to do. I just know what he said he was going to do. So Both of them have a plan. Both of them say they're going to do something. And who knows what's really going to happen after November 3rd. Nobody knows from each side. We're all hoping that candidates keep their campaign promises. So that's just it.
So let's look at it this way. I think that you're right to be skeptical. Let's start with the Democrats, because even though there is a traditional connection between black voters and the Democrats, you could also say you've been let down or forgotten by Democrats in a lot of situations that would have mattered. Then you say, all right, so then what makes one side better than the other? That's where you get in trouble, which is, do you really think that Donald Trump can be trusted as much as you could trust Joe Biden?
I don't think I'm not trusting any of them. I'm just going by action.
So what a difference a few years makes. So what we hear in this first clip is Ice Cube saying that, he doesn't like what he's seeing in office. We aren't drinking that Kool-Aid is a direct quote from what he said. He said that, President Trump does not need to be reelected, and said that he doesn't like the fact that Kanye was meeting with President Trump because it's a misguided partnership. So then April Ryan asks him, well, if the president asked you to talk to him, what would you say? And Ice Cube says, I wouldn't go in to talk to him. I've got nothing to say. Now let's fast forward to just, a couple of days ago to the second clip. And Ice Cube says that the Platinum Plan, which was, in his defense, was coined by the Trump administration, isn't his plan. His actual name for his plan was the Contract for Black America. Now, what the Platinum Plan is their adaptation of their original plan to incorporate some of the things that he had in the Contract for Black America. So whether the Platinum Plan is actually his or not, it doesn't matter. It incorporates some of these Contract of Black America, supposedly. We haven't seen it. He then says that he didn't run to Trump. He wants to make it very specific with Chris Cuomo that he didn't run to Trump. He didn't run to either party. He said both parties approached him, and one party said, let's discuss this after the election, which is a very real thing. Because why? Vice President Biden does not have the power right now to make those decisions. So he would then have to discuss it after the election. Seems quite logical to me, but it doesn't seem as logical to Ice Cube based on what he's saying. He said the other, the current administration said, okay, let's have a talk to determine, how we can incorporate some of these things from your Contract for Black America. But here's the problem that I have with that, right? He just said a few years ago that he would not have anything to say. But now, fast forward a couple of years, and now you have all of this to say. You literally came out with an album with a track that said arrest the president, and now all of a sudden he's okay to work with. And while he does say, Ice Cube I'm referring to, he does say that he doesn't trust either side. The problem that I have, though, is Vice President Biden has not given us anything really to distrust that he would not incorporate any of the elements of Ice Cube's plan into his future plan. But again, he's not in the position to do so right now. Not for nothing, but Donald Trump has shown us again and again that he has no interest in Black America. I mean, for goodness sakes, the one debate that we've had, he really stood on stage and refused to denounce white supremacy. How much more clear can it get? And I understand, as Chris Cuomo pointed out, that there is some underlying distrust for politics in general in the African American community. But really, Ice Cube, a couple of weeks before the election, this is really what you want to do? You are a cultural icon in the African American community, and whether this was your intention or not, it's not really the best timing to plant seeds of doubt when one candidate has shown us that he really does not care about us at all. And another candidate has shown us that he has worked to make things better, not just for African Americans, but for the country as a whole. That's just me. And I'm not saying, that people can't make, bad decisions and overcome them. But this one, I think I'm ready to cancel culture on Ice Cube. I'm just saying. What do you think, Nicole?
Well, oh my goodness. You've said a lot, and Ice Cube said a lot, and what he said obviously is very hypocritical, because you can't say, arrest him, I ain't gonna go in and talk to him ever, and now you're sitting down talking to his administration. I would want to know, who did he actually talk to? Because he says, I've never talked to Donald Trump. Well, who did you talk to then? So you talked to somebody on his campaign if you haven't talked directly to Donald Trump. So to me, that's the same thing. Two, I want to know more details about this plan. Now, I know that Ice Cube's plan for Black culture had to do with reparations. He's always talked about reparations. And I'm very pro 40 acres and a mule, or at least forgive my student loans. One of the two of those things need to happen, okay? So hopefully the plan has one of those in there that can build us some wealth. You know, forgiving my student loans means I can put more money back into the Black community and as well in my family and my pockets. Now, you give me 40 acres and a mule. I don't even know if they have enough free 40 acres to give all the Black people. And then let's talk about who should get the 40 acres. You want to be Black now and you want the 40 acres now? Are you working or are you not working? Who deserves the 40 acres? Do all Black people get the 40 acres and a mule? Because we had that many acres. But either way, I know that his plan has something to do with reparations, and I'm about that. What I don't like is that he doesn't speak for all Black culture. He can only speak for his own personal experiences. So I think that people are putting a lot of pressure on these celebrities to be like the end all be all for Black culture or Latino culture or, you know, these certain cultures when they haven't pulled in enough brain power to actually formulate a real concise plan that's going to work. So that's the first issue I have with it. The second issue I have with it is that he was hypocritical. He should have never said in the beginning that he was not going to talk to this man later on, because realistically, he's the president. I don't like Donald Trump, and some people may not like that I'm saying this, but if he calls me and asks me what my views are on women's health, guess who's going down in my fly red bottoms and my Yves Saint Laurent suit? Me. I'm flying down. I'm going to talk to the president. I'm going to tell him what I think because he's the president. So I think that people forget that he is still the most powerful man in the world. Although we don't want him in there, we want to have our platform out there too. And maybe if enough people keep saying the same thing over and over again, maybe he will support Black culture. And I'm hoping that is why Ice Cube went down there to talk to his campaign. Now, he didn't say that he was on Team Trump. I think the man's still going to check the box for Kamala and Joe. So it didn't say that he's working with the campaign. He's just giving them information. He's like, hey, they asked for information. I'm giving them information. This other party over here didn't tell me they wanted information. I offered it. They said that, hey, we're not going to bite until after we win, which is okay. But these other people, they've asked for it. So just in case they win, it's okay to know his view as well. So I don't think that he is working with the Trump campaign. I'm disappointed that he did not craft his language in such a way that made us know that I am not working with this campaign. I am just giving them my thoughts, just like I gave the other party the opportunity to give my thoughts, so that whoever wins can have something and some action for the Black community. That's where I am with the Ice Cube thing. But I do think it sounds a little hypocritical when you say you never do it, and then all of a sudden you do it.
Well, I agree. Yes, he is hypocritical, but I feel like he should feel like he's being used, right? Like, I don't think that in a traditional setting or in any of their interactions or normal, day-to-day activities that they would cross paths, right? I feel like Trump probably has some great advisors, and they probably, much like they did with Omarosa, much like they did with Herman Cain, they pick a Black person. I remember, back when he first became president, they did this to Steve Harvey. I mean, any Black person that is seen meeting with the campaign at this point should feel like they're being used for votes. And whether his intentions were to make people more aware or to, put the Black agenda on the president's to-do list, the way that the Trump administration has made this appear is that they are working together. And let me tell you something. Trump is not a good president. I was going to say he might not be a good president, but he's not a good president. But what he is, he's a hell of a marketer. He can market anything. And that's what he is good at. He's good at spinning a narrative. He's good at manipulating a narrative. And he's good at making things appear the way that he wants them to appear to benefit him. And I think that this is a perfect example of that. He made it appear like Ice Cube and he were aligning themselves together. And subsequently, we got this media frenzy. We got exactly what he wanted. Exactly what he wanted. So now there are seeds of doubt that have been planted in the minds of African Americans only because they're getting snippets of the story. They're getting quick headlines that have been manipulated by the administration. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying cancel culture on Ice Cube more so because of his timing, and I think that he should be smarter than this. I'm just saying I think that he should have done this a little bit more strategically and not made us 2 weeks before the election go into a media frenzy about his alignment with the president.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I definitely think he's being used, but I think all black people, to a certain extent, if you're in a majority institution or corporation, we're all being used to some extent as a token, right? But we do need to make sure we're controlling the narrative and getting ahead of this thing instead of it looking like Ice Cube endorses Trump. And now he's like, wait a minute. I didn't say that. I didn't say I endorsed Trump. I'm just saying I was giving information and I offer both parties information. So I think that he should have gotten ahead of that, or his PR team should have gotten ahead of that narrative, because it does look bad, although his intentions might have been very good. It does look bad. I wouldn't cancel on him just yet. I mean, if we haven't canceled on Kanye, I mean, people are still down for Kanye. They're going to Kanye church. And I know we have canceled on him, but
I was about to say
other people haven't canceled on him. Other people have not canceled on him. I'm just saying.
I mean, you can't take either one of their talent away from them, right?
No.
I'm not interested. Like, I'm not going to. And here's the thing. I'm not the kind of person that feels like our celebrities should be political figures, right? If they happen to be passionate and educated about politics and they want to be activists of some sort, then I welcome that. But if that's not their lane, I don't think that should be piled onto their things that we expect from them. I just don't. And this particular situation, yes, Ice Cube has been very vocal about the rights of black people and the plight that we have in this country. He has been. But this one, sir, talk about misguided partnerships. I think that his partnership, whether he would like to admit it's a partnership with the Trump administration or not, his partnership with the Trump administration is misguided.
And let's be very clear. We all know that Trump is not worried about black people. When he refused to denounce white supremacy, I mean, he was like, wait, what'd you say? And they're like, no, say it, denounce white supremacy. So when he refused that, to me, that was like very much so proof he doesn't care about black people. I'm sorry. So I don't think that anything anyone says to him about what black people need to thrive in this country is going to go anywhere, especially if Trump gets reelected. I mean, that's just for him another, I can stand in the middle of Manhattan and shoot somebody and people still vote for me. Well, you basically done it. I mean, you basically like killed a whole bunch of people with COVID and people are still supporting you. So, hey, there you go.
You're right. And here's the thing. Do we get to cancel culture on Ice Cube if Trump gets reelected?
Yeah, if he gets reelected, we can cancel culture.
Okay.
Yeah. A friend of mine is torn about voting this year. She considers herself to be an independent, but she thinks there are pros and cons to both candidates, more so cons for Trump. The issue she's having about not voting for Trump is that his policies are good, but she can't stand behind Biden because he's okay with abortions. Morally, she feels it's wrong, so she just plans to not vote. What do you think?
I don't think that I'm ever going to say in life that you shouldn't vote. I think that there are some basic rights that we have as humans, and voting is probably one of the most important of them. With that being said, I understand when your religious views don't necessarily align with a candidate. I get it 100%. You know, some of my religious views don't necessarily align with either party, to be very honest with you. But there's something that I saw actually on our social media, and I think it was shared by my friend Jenny. And it said, basically, you're not voting for a spouse. Like, you're not going on a date with this person. This person is not someone that you have to be in love with, right? You have to pick the better of the two options. And here's the thing. Based on what this person has said, yeah, okay, there are some policies that you might like that are Trump policies. I would suggest doing some research, see where those policies initiated. Not for nothing, but most policies, they're not really initiated from the president. I don't think that one or two issues should be the deciding factor in who you vote for, right? And I sure don't think that you not being able to align 100% with one candidate or the other gives you an excuse not to vote. I'm sorry. I think it's a lame excuse. That's just my personal opinion. I think that you do it like you do with anything else in life. You weigh the pros and the cons. You weigh the pros and the cons for each candidate based on your life and your experience. And you know, every once in a while, maybe think about those around you. Weigh the pros and the cons. And when you weigh the pros and the cons, vote based on whichever list has more pros for you. But sitting out of the election, I think it's a cop-out personally.
I don't know why people are so like, oh, pro-life versus abortion rights. And it's really an argument of like women's rights versus not women's rights for me. But I know that I'm coming from a standpoint of being an OBGYN. And so I'm all about women's rights. And I'm also coming from the standpoint of being a woman. So I would think that women would be pro women's rights. But apparently all women are not pro women's rights. So what I would say is, one, there's nothing that says that they are pro-abortion. There's nothing. There's nothing on the platform that says they're pro-abortion. They're pro-women's rights. Now, if you are a woman and you don't want an abortion, don't get one. Don't get one. But why should the government control who should get an abortion and who doesn't? Now, I know that we're not going to get too political. That's all I'm going to say about that piece. But I would also add, if you're so pro-life and it bothers you that Biden is okay with women's rights, which will give women the right to an abortion if it's medically needed, then why are you okay with Trump not being pro-Black lives or pro-Latino lives or pro anything other than white American lives? Like, why are you okay with that? And people think that this whole like pro-life, pro-abortion movement is about little unborn babies. But let's be clear, it's about the people that are living right now. And so you can't say that you value this unborn life and you don't value these other lives that are getting gunned down in the street by police officers, or you don't value these other lives that are getting paid less than other people are getting paid for doing the same exact job. So why are we putting different values on different lives? So I would, one, stand for that. And then another point is, you can't just waste your vote. Like, that's what you were saying that your elected official did. Just waste their vote and like pencil in somebody else's name that can't serve. Like, you can't come back from the dead and serve. Like, we did that in 2016 and this is where we got, right? We got somebody in the middle of a pandemic that claims that it's false. And then actually he claims it's real, but he's overcome it because he got all the right meds that nobody else in the world can get. And so he's still claiming that people can't really die from this thing because he's in his 70s and he overcame it. So it's not that big of a deal. But he's like allowed 200,000 plus Americans to die because he's fired everybody that's advised him that could have alerted him that this thing was coming. And even still, he's not taking the advisors that he has seriously, or they're quitting because they're being abused or used or lied on for publicity stunts. So I just ask, do you want the economy to be even worse than it is now? Because although we have this mega business person in place, which I can go down that lane too and say he's really not that mega business, because if you gave me $1 million to start my own business, I would be a billionaire too. But okay, but you have this businessman that supposedly would be good for the economy, but doesn't understand how different things help shape the economy. Like health shapes the economy. You got to be healthy to go to work. But you want to get rid of everything dealing with the Affordable Care Act that is actually going to make people healthier. And you want to ignore the fact that there's a global pandemic, which is killing people. But you want to stimulate the economy? Get out of here. I'm just telling people I want to shake this friend. Shake her. Shake some sense into her. Because if you're going to sit at home like you did in 2016 and expect to get a different result, then you're insane. And mind you, staying at home got us this result. You know one of them is going to win. One of them has to win. So even if you don't vote for them, one of them is going to win. It doesn't mean that, oh, if the majority of people just don't vote, then we're going to do a do-over. No, somebody is going to win. So you might as well put your vote to the person that you think will service your family and your community the best. That's all I have to say about that.
So this is a letter, well, an inbox from one of our listeners. It says, "Hi, Nicole and Janine. My father is a 70-year-old and has never registered to vote because registering to vote is associated with serving for jury duty. I'm not sure why it's like this in my state or if it's like this in other states, but apparently that's what it is. I live in Maryland and I've tried to do some research, but I haven't found why jury duty is associated with registering to vote. I really wish that my father would vote. Please help.
So you mean to tell me all these years this man hadn't registered to vote because it's associated with jury duty? So he's trying to dodge jury duty? Oh, come on. Now, one, I would say to this friend of the podcast that wrote in, one, tell your dad there are ways to get out of jury duty if you have a valid excuse. And mind you, you may get called for jury duty even if some states you don't even have to be registered to vote. You get called for jury duty. So I didn't know that was the case in Maryland. But here in a great state, you don't have to be registered to get called for jury duty. You could just get called. So that's not really an excuse to not vote.
Okay, so let me tell you that, one, this infuriated me because, as you know, I live in Maryland. And two, unfortunately, it's too late for her father to register to vote in Maryland because our registration deadline was October the 13th. He could have registered to vote for this election. And let me tell you why. So when I did some research, the demographic information is not strictly pulled for jury duty from your voter registration, right? It's also pulled from utility bills, motor vehicle registration, driver's license. There are a lot of things that jury duty is selected based upon. So if your father has a motor vehicle registration, a utility bill, a driver's license, even a state issued ID, they can call him for jury duty. And the fact that he hasn't been called for jury duty in 70 years goes to show how unlikely you are to get selected for jury duty. This is the part I think that bothers me the most about this, is that when I looked up the rules of voter registration and jury duty in Maryland, I found that Maryland has a statutory exemption. So that means that it allows individuals of a certain age to request an exemption based on their age. And that age in Maryland is 70. So realistically, if your father would have registered to vote, he has an exemption simply based on his age. The courts have to recognize if he was called for jury duty, he can use the statutory exemption and say that he's 70. So unfortunately, your father didn't register to vote for this election, but please tell him that now that he's 70, he can automatically be excused from jury duty. If he gets called for jury duty, he can say that he's 70 and he would like to opt out. I would admonish you to tell your father to register to vote now. And no, he cannot vote in this upcoming presidential election, but he can vote in our local elections. He can vote in the 2024 election.
I've never been called for jury duty. I don't know if you have, but I've never been called.
I've gotten called for jury duty once in Maryland, and I didn't get selected for the jury. I sat there, I took my lunch and whatever, and collected my $8 check at the end of the day and went back to work the next day. I did not get selected for jury duty. However, when I lived in Philadelphia, I was called for jury duty twice and was selected once. The case lasted for 24 hours. They pled. I was done. I served my civic duty. You don't have to serve again for, whatever the number of years is in your state. But it's not hard. Like, it really is not that difficult.
Well, I love forensic case files. I always say, man, why don't they call me? And now that I have a job that I'm straight salaried, so if I got called, I'm still getting my coins over there and I get my little, $10 a day on the jury duty. Be like a jury duty side hustle, right? But either way, I'm always like, man, I bet that'd be exciting to be in the courtroom of like the O.J. Simpson case or, the Lorena Bobbitt case, like that would have been awesome. But really, I can understand how it's a little petrifying because, you're always, especially if it's a murder case, you're always wondering like who's out to get you and, what they're going to do to, tamper with you. So I understand why there could be some hesitation, but in my mind, I'm always like, man, why am I not called for jury duty? I could definitely sit on that jury and take my notes. And also, I do feel like there needs to be more Black and brown people on the jury. So I would not mind volunteering because I feel like we need some diversity. Especially if you have people of color that are on trial, we need to make sure we're available and we're serving so that they will not, so they can be tried by a jury of their peers. So Janine, what did you learn new this week?
The information that I learned new this week is actually kind of disappointing. So as of right now, and like I said, there are, like we discovered, there are some states that allow you to register to vote up until November the 3rd. However, right now, based on the estimations of populationreview.com, there's only 63.9% of the United States population that's registered to vote. They broke it down by state. The top 10 highest states that are registered to vote are Maine, Mississippi, Michigan, Kentucky, North Dakota, Minnesota, Missouri, Wisconsin, Montana, and Iowa. And that's disappointing specifically for me because, and probably for you too, Nicole, because the states that we live in, they're not in the top 10, which is ridiculous to me. So for Texas, Nicole, only 55.2% of the eligible population is registered to vote. And in Maryland, it's only 66.3%. And in some of our favorite states like Louisiana, where you're from, 65.4%. And Alabama, our favorite state of Alabama, 66.4%. So yes, it's only 63.9% average of people that are eligible to vote that vote. In 2016, the black voter turnout specifically declined for the first time in 20 years. It dropped from record highs of 66.6% in 2012 to 59.6% in 2016. If you are listening, go vote. And please make sure that your family members are voting, whether it's mail-in ballot, whether it's absentee ballot, whether you go to the polls. If you have to pick someone up, make sure that you and your tribe and your community are voting.
Well, that is so enlightening and disappointing at the same time, that basically 60% of America chooses our officials, right? And that's not even 60% of America. That's like roughly 60% of people that are eligible to vote that are registered in these states. And so we're not talking about in these states where if you have a felony and you've served your time and now you are not eligible. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people that are eligible to vote. 60 and 65% of the eligible people are registered. That's a shame. That shows you that only a little bit of the country is actually voting on these elected officials. We need to change that. America needs to change their system. They need to be like other countries where you have to opt out of voting. So there are countries that basically will register everybody to vote. So when you turn 18, you're automatically registered. And if you don't want to vote, then you opt out of voting. But you don't have to go through all this rigmarole that we have to go through and register. And, oh, did they get my registration? For my registration, I had to check, now that I'm in Texas, 3 times to make sure I was registered to vote. I sent the paperwork in all 3 times. And finally, after the last time, it showed that I was registered and I got my registration in the mail like the next day. But I was like, man, like, what is up with the state of Texas? Why do I have to check all these times? It should not be like that. It should be some type of opt-out system where you're automatically registered when you're 18. My thing is, if you don't have a death certificate, you should be registered to vote. I'm just saying, it should not be this hard.
I think that people need to make it easier. And then also it needs to be easier to vote, right? Like the long lines are a deterrent, especially during COVID. The mail-in voting process, we've seen what's happening with that, with mailboxes and things being removed. It's just a lot of hassle for no reason. And honestly, I can see why people are like, I don't want to go through all of this to vote. Power through it. Our ancestors did so much more for their right to vote. Please, guys, if it's standing in a long line or filling out your voter registration 15 times is your deterrent, think about what your ancestors had to go through to get their right to vote.
So my Learn Something New is also about voting. I think these numbers are important because if we're saying roughly 60% of Americans that are eligible are actually registered to vote, my Learn Something New of 40% of absentee ballots are now invalid or pending are African-American ballots. That's crazy. So 40% of y'all, if you voted via absentee ballot, check the status because you might be pending. They're trying to make sure that the witness lines are signed or dated. Most of them are because the witnesses can't be validated. You have to have a U.S. citizen to sign as a witness on your absentee ballot. And then there's other reasons their ballots have either been invalid or they're still double checking, right? If your name doesn't match your ID and you don't put the right thing on your ballot, it's invalid or it could be under review. Okay, so you have to make sure you put your whole name. Don't put any abbreviations unless that's abbreviation you had on your ID. So little little things like that. So look at your license and see what you put on there to make sure that you're filling the thing out, and don't leave anything blank. Don't leave anything blank. It's crazy that 40% of African American ballots are invalid or pending. That's crazy. So that makes our number down even lower, right? Even smaller number from our community that's contributing to this vote.
No matter how you voted, if you voted early, if you voted by mail, if you voted up until this point, check. If you did not physically go to a polling location, check on the status of your ballot.
Are we ready for the motivational moment for the week?
We are.
Keith Ellison said, not voting is not a protest, it's a surrender. So let's not repeat what we did in 2016. We can't just stay home, people. The other side wins like that. Remember, all that has sacrificed for your right to vote. Exercise your right to vote. Until we meet again.
Pray, work, slay.
And show off your melanated excellence.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations is produced by Nicole Lee Plenty and Janine Brunson Johnson. Executive producer, Ken Johnson. Get the Oh, That's Deep Black Women Conversation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts. Please subscribe and rate us. You can follow Oh, That's Deep Black Women Conversations on IG at Oh, That's Deep BWC. Oh, That's Deep Black Women Conversations is a Mean Old Lion Media production.